What if the way you wake up is silently deciding the kind of life you will live? Have you ever thought about how the first few moments of your morning are shaping not just your day, but your future? Most people don't realize this truth. They open their eyes, grab their phone, scroll through noise, and immediately let the world control their emotions. Without knowing it, they hand over their power before the day has even begun. And then they wonder why they feel distracted, unfocused, or unmotivated. But the reality is simple. The way you start determines the way you continue. Your first hour is the seed. The rest of your day is the harvest. The human brain is most impressionable in those first waking minutes. Science proves it. During that early state, your mind is open, vulnerable, and ready to be programmed. Whatever you feed it in that moment will echo through your thoughts and actions. If you start with negativity, your brain multiplies stress. If you start with focus, your brain multiplies clarity. That's why mornings are not accidents, they are choices. And every choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Think about it. If your first action is hitting snooze, you're teaching your mind to delay. If your first habit is grabbing your phone, you're teaching your mind to react. But if your first action is purposeful, hydrating, stretching, reflecting, you're teaching your mind that you are in control. That's not a small shift. That's the difference between a day wasted and a day won. Here's the truth most people ignore. Mornings are not meant to be survived. They are meant to be designed. Every successful person you admire has discovered this secret. They don't leave the first hour of their day to chance because they know chance creates chaos. Instead, they build structure. They create rituals that set their state, sharpen their focus, and ignite their energy. They don't wait for motivation to appear. They design it from the moment they wake. And you can do the same. You don't need a perfect system. You don't need to copy someone else's routine. All you need is the awareness that the first decisions you make in the morning are shaping your mindset, your energy, and your future. That awareness alone is power, because once you realize that mornings are the steering wheel of your life, you stop drifting and start driving. The reward of owning your mornings is not just productivity, it's peace, it's confidence. It's a quiet strength that comes from knowing you are starting your day on your terms. Imagine how different your life feels when you wake up with clarity instead of chaos, with direction instead of distraction. That's the life you deserve. That's the life you can create. But it begins with one simple commitment. Never waste the most powerful hour of your day again. Stay with me because once you understand the full power of your mornings, you'll see that every sunrise is more than light in the sky. It's a decision, a chance to step into discipline, energy, and purpose, a chance to create the life you've always wanted. Your morning decides everything, and today you can choose to decide differently. Your body holds the key to unlocking the energy your mind is searching for, and it all begins the moment you rise. Too many people wake up dragging yesterday's exhaustion into today, moving slowly, feeling heavy, and believing it's normal. But what if that feeling of tiredness is not who you are, but simply the result of habits that drain instead of fuel? Science has shown us that physical movement in the early hours of the day does more than stretch muscles. It wakes up the brain, ignites focus, and releases chemicals that sharpen motivation. Your body is the ignition switch, and if you choose to activate it, your entire day transforms. Think of the times you've pushed yourself to move when you didn't want to. Even the simplest actions, a few minutes of stretching, deep breathing, or walking, carry the power to flip your internal state. That shift is not an accident, it's biology. When you choose movement before distraction, when you energize before you consume, you are reclaiming authority over your own state of being. Without that choice, your body moves slow, your thoughts move slow, and everything you attempt feels heavier than it needs to. But when you create energy first, everything that follows becomes lighter, faster, sharper. This is the principle that champions live by. They understand that energy is not a luxury. It's the foundation. Productivity, discipline, creativity, and resilience all depend on it. Without energy, even the best plans collapse. With energy, even the hardest challenges feel possible. That's why how you treat your body in the morning is not about fitness alone. It's about power. It's about the strength to carry your goals forward without being held hostage by fatigue. Consider the truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you begin your morning drained, you'll spend the day fighting uphill battles with no force behind you. But if you fill yourself first, if you charge your system through breath, hydration, and movement, You create an unstoppable momentum that carries you long after the morning ends. This is why the first decision to move matters more than the 100 decisions that follow. It sets the tone. It establishes the standard. It proves to yourself that you are stronger than the voice of comfort. You don't need hours. You don't need complicated routines. What you need is intention, a commitment to move your body before the world moves you. Even 5 minutes is enough to shift your state. 5 minutes of honoring your body can fuel hours of focus. And when you repeat this day after day, it becomes more than a habit. It becomes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who struggles to wake up. You see yourself as someone who rises with strength, someone who begins with power, someone who refuses to let comfort dictate destiny. The reward of this shift cannot be measured only in productivity. It's measured in how you feel about yourself. Every time you choose energy over excuses, you build trust with yourself. That trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes momentum. And momentum, once created, is unstoppable. This is why your morning energy is sacred. It is not random. It is designed by your choices. And when you choose to move, to breathe, to charge your body before anything else, you unlock the strength to handle whatever the day throws at you. Energy first, always. Because when your body is alive, your mind is unstoppable. Energy alone is not enough if your mind is still chained to yesterday's doubts and fears. The morning is not only the time to awaken your body, but also the time to reset your thoughts. Your mind is the command center of everything you will do today, and it is waiting for instructions. If you do not deliberately give it the right ones, it will default to stress, worry, and distraction. That is why the first thoughts you allow yourself to think are far more powerful than you realize. They either prepare you to rise or they quietly pull you back down. Psychology has proven that the brain is highly suggestible in the early morning. This is the window when your subconscious is most open to influence, when your mental state is most easily programmed. If you start by dwelling on problems, your brain begins filtering the world through fear. But if you begin by focusing on gratitude, your brain filters the world through abundance. The difference is life-changing. Gratitude is not just a positive thought, it is a rewiring of perspective. It teaches your brain to search for what is working instead of what is broken. And the more often you practice it, the more your brain leans toward resilience instead of despair. But gratitude alone is just the beginning. This is also the time to remind yourself of who you want to become. Affirmations may sound simple, but they are declarations of identity. When you tell yourself, I am strong, I am disciplined, I am focused, you are not lying. You are training your brain to align with the best version of you. Words repeated in the morning are not empty. They are seeds, and when planted daily, they grow into unshakable belief. Visualization adds the final layer of power. When you close your eyes and see the life you are working toward, you activate the same neural pathways as if you were already living it. The brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and reality. This means that by visualizing success each morning, you are rehearsing it into existence. You are conditioning yourself to expect it, to pursue it, and to create it. That expectation changes your actions, and your actions change your results. This mental reset is not about escaping reality. It is about preparing for it. Life will always bring challenges. Stress will always exist. But when you prime your mind in the morning, you walk into those challenges with a shield. You walk in with focus, clarity, and an inner strength that refuses to be shaken. You no longer spend the day reacting to problems. You spend the day leading yourself through them. Imagine how different your life feels when each morning you wake and choose to program your mind with gratitude instead of fear, with confidence instead of doubt, with vision instead of limitation. That is not just a routine, it is a transformation. You are teaching yourself to rise above negativity, to see possibility where others see obstacles, and to carry unbreakable focus into everything you do. This is the power of the morning reset. It is not optional, it is essential, because the world will try to shake you, but if your mind is fortified before the day begins, nothing can move you. Your mind may be reset, but what you allow into it will decide how long that clarity lasts. The inputs you choose in the first hour of your morning will either protect your focus or poison it. This is not just about information, it is about influence. Psychology calls it priming, the phenomenon where the first images, words, or emotions you are exposed to shape how you interpret everything afterward. If you begin your day consuming negativity, your brain will filter the entire world through that negativity. If you begin by consuming inspiration, your brain will look for strength, solutions, and growth. This is why so many people lose control of their days without even realizing it. They wake up, reach for their phone, and instantly invite the noise of the world into their most fragile state. They let strangers, headlines, and distractions dictate their mindset before they have even dictated it themselves. By the time they put the phone down, their attention is already scattered, their emotions are already hijacked, and their energy has already been drained. They did not lose the day at noon. They lost it within the first 15 minutes of waking. Guarding your inputs is not about living in silence. It is about choosing your environment deliberately. When you decide that the first content you consume will be something that lifts you instead of something that drains you, you take control of the most valuable currency you have, attention. Attention is what fuels focus. Attention is what builds momentum. Without it, every task feels heavy and incomplete. With it, every action feels purposeful and powerful. Think about the difference between beginning your day with a scroll of comparison versus a page of wisdom. One leaves you feeling behind, anxious, and unsatisfied. The other leaves you feeling grounded, inspired, and ready. That single decision cascades into every area of your life. What you feed your mind becomes what you feel. What you feel becomes what you do. What you do becomes who you are. That chain reaction is unstoppable once it starts, and you control where it begins. Discipline in this area may feel like sacrifice at first, but it is not sacrifice, it is freedom. When you reject the constant pull of distraction, you are not losing connection to the world. You are gaining connection to yourself. You are reclaiming the ability to think clearly, to act with intention, and to create instead of consume. That is the freedom most people never experience because they trade their attention for comfort. But comfort is temporary while clarity is priceless. When you commit to guarding your inputs, you are no longer a passive receiver of noise. You become the architect of your own focus. You choose to plant seeds of strength instead of weeds of chaos. You choose to step into the day with direction instead of confusion. And that choice, repeated every morning, builds a mind that is resilient, sharp, and unshakable. This is how you protect the mental reset you created. This is how you transform clarity into momentum. Guard your inputs fiercely because what you let in is what you will live out. Momentum is the invisible force that decides whether you rise with strength or stumble through the hours ahead. The smallest action you take in the morning carries a weight far greater than it seems. Behavioral psychology calls it the progress principle, the feeling of forward motion, even in the tiniest steps, fuels motivation and builds the desire to keep going. This is why a simple act like making your bed, hydrating, or completing one small task can shift your entire state. It is not about the action itself, it is about what the action represents. It is proof to your mind that you are moving forward. And once your brain receives that signal, it hungers for more progress. Momentum is not about speed, it is about direction. One disciplined step in the morning has the power to multiply into a chain of victories. But the opposite is also true. If your first choice is to delay, if your first response is to hit snooze, you begin the day with inertia. Your mind associates inaction with safety, and the weight of that choice expands into everything else you do. The first moment teaches your brain what to expect from the rest of the day. If you begin in hesitation, you invite hesitation. If you begin in action, you invite achievement. This is why mornings hold such immense power. They are the clean slate, the reset point, the moment when you choose whether to align with strength or surrender to weakness. Every action is amplified because it sets a standard. One glass of water becomes a signal that health matters. One stretch becomes a signal that energy matters. One completed task becomes a signal that progress matters. The more you honor those signals, the more momentum builds. Think of momentum as a current. At first, it feels small, almost invisible, but once it starts flowing, it is difficult to stop. The more you repeat these disciplined choices, the more your identity shifts. You stop asking whether you feel motivated because motivation becomes irrelevant. Momentum replaces it. You no longer rely on willpower alone because your consistent actions have created an unstoppable rhythm. The danger comes when you underestimate how powerful small decisions are. Most people think failure comes from massive mistakes, but more often it comes from the quiet, repeated decisions to delay, to skip, to avoid. Those choices seem small in isolation, but they create negative momentum just as powerfully as good habits create positive momentum. The difference between someone thriving and someone struggling is not found in one dramatic choice. It is found in the small patterns that build momentum in opposite directions. This is why your mornings cannot be left to chance. They are either fueling you or draining you. They are either creating the wind behind your sails or the weight holding you back. By committing to just a few intentional actions, you ignite a force that carries you into the day with strength. You prove to yourself that you are moving, you are progressing, you are alive with purpose. Momentum is not just the result of success, momentum is the cause of it. And every morning, with every choice, you are either feeding that cause or starving it. Choose to feed it. Choose to create motion, no matter how small, and let that motion grow into the unstoppable rhythm of your life. Momentum becomes even more powerful when it evolves into identity. Every action you take in the morning is not just a task completed, it is a message to yourself about who you are. Habits are not random behaviors, they are declarations of identity repeated through consistency. When you wake up and move with intention, you are silently telling yourself, I am disciplined, I am focused, I am in control. When you wake up and surrender to comfort, you are sending yourself the opposite message. Over time, those messages accumulate, shaping the way you see yourself, and the way you see yourself determines the life you will live. This is why goals alone are not enough. Goals are external. They are about what you want someday. Identity is internal. It is about who you are right now, and who you believe yourself to be will always overpower the goals you write down. If you see yourself as someone weak, someone inconsistent, someone who never follows through, your goals become fantasies. But if you see yourself as someone disciplined, resilient, and unstoppable, your actions naturally align with that belief. The morning is the most powerful moment to cement that identity because it is the first chance to prove your belief true through action. Every repeated choice strengthens the identity attached to it. If you act with discipline once, it feels like effort. If you act with discipline daily, it feels like who you are. That is the transformation. You no longer need to force yourself into the life you want because your actions and your identity are aligned. You become the kind of person who doesn't wait for motivation because your sense of self makes discipline automatic. This is why small morning habits are far greater than they appear. They are not just tasks, they are votes for your identity. Identity is powerful because it becomes self-fulfilling. A person who believes they are disciplined behaves with discipline. A person who believes they are weak behaves with weakness. The brain works tirelessly to prove the identity it believes to be true. This is why repeating empowering habits in the morning is so essential. It gives your brain evidence that you are strong, capable, and worthy of success. With every choice, you are stacking proof that you are exactly who you need to be to create the life you want. The danger lies in the opposite. When you repeatedly act against your best self, you reinforce an identity of failure. You don't just miss a habit, you damage your belief in yourself. And belief is everything. Once it weakens, excuses feel louder, doubt feels stronger, and progress feels impossible. But the good news is that identity is not fixed. Every new morning gives you another chance to rewrite it. Every sunrise is a new vote for the person you are choosing to become. When you begin to see your mornings not just as habits, but as identity, everything shifts. You stop chasing motivation. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop seeing discipline as punishment and start seeing it as who you are. You become the kind of person who rises, who leads, who wins before the world even wakes. And once your identity shifts, transformation is no longer temporary. It becomes permanent. Identity gives you strength, but even the strongest identity must face the battle that begins the moment you open your eyes. Every morning you are confronted with two voices. One tells you to stay where it's safe, to hold on to comfort, to delay. The other tells you to rise, to grow, to move toward the version of yourself you know you're capable of becoming. That is the battle you fight before you take a single step, and how you respond to it decides everything. The voice of comfort is seductive. It promises rest, ease, and a false sense of safety. But behind that promise lies stagnation, regret, and wasted potential. The voice of growth, however, demands more. It calls for discomfort, effort, and sacrifice, But what it gives in return is power. It gives you strength, confidence, and a sense of progress that nothing else can replace. The decision you make in those first few moments is not small. It is the training ground for your willpower. And psychology has proven that willpower is strongest in the morning and weakens as the day goes on. This means that the earliest actions you take are the easiest ones to win and the most important. If you delay, you will face a harder battle later when your strength is already drained. That is why the morning is sacred. It is not just another part of the day, it is the arena where you either conquer excuses or surrender to them. And every time you choose discipline over delay, you weaken the enemy within. Every time you act despite resistance, you prove that you are greater than the voice of limitation. That proof builds upon itself. Each victory, no matter how small, adds to your arsenal of belief. The more you win in the morning, the more unstoppable you become throughout the day. But every loss matters too. Every time you choose to give in, you strengthen that voice of weakness. You make it louder, bolder, more convincing the next time it speaks. This is why discipline is not about the size of the action, it is about the consistency of victory. Even the smallest win in the morning is more powerful than the largest win at night because it sets the standard and declares who is in control. You must recognize the truth. Life will not hand you peace, focus, or success. It will hand you choices, and the hardest ones will always appear when comfort is closest. This is why your first battle of the day matters more than any battle that comes later. Win here, and you carry momentum, confidence, and strength into everything that follows. Lose here, and you spend the rest of the day trying to recover what you willingly gave away. The battlefield of the morning is not about whether you feel ready. It is about whether you act. Feelings are fleeting. Action is permanent. When you rise against resistance, you silence excuses with proof. You make your strength undeniable. And once you master this battle daily, you realize the truth that few ever understand. To win in life, you must first win in the morning. Victory in the morning battle is secured by design, not by chance. You cannot expect to rise strong if you wake without a plan. The most powerful mornings are not left to impulse, they are structured with intention. A ritual is more than routine. It is a declaration of how you will live. When you design it, you remove the need for endless decisions. You free your mind from chaos and replace it with clarity. Psychology calls this reduction of decision fatigue one of the greatest tools of discipline, because when your energy is no longer wasted on what to do, it is fully focused on doing it. The mistake most people make is believing they must copy someone else's ritual to be successful, but your morning is not meant to be borrowed, it is meant to be built. It must align with your values, your vision, and your goals. For some, it will be movement and sweat. For others, silence, reflection, or learning. What matters is not the specific activity, but the consistency of practice. When you commit to repeating the same meaningful actions every morning, they shift from effort into identity. At first, they feel like tasks. Soon, they feel like truth. Start small. Choose one habit and master it. Let it become automatic, effortless, a natural part of who you are. Then build on it. Over weeks, your ritual becomes stronger. Over months, it becomes the standard. Over years, it becomes destiny. This is the quiet, compounding power of disciplined mornings. It is not about dramatic bursts of effort. It is about the slow, steady transformation of your mind and spirit into something unshakable. Your ritual is not just about preparing for the day, it is about commanding it. When you move with structure, you eliminate uncertainty. You silence distraction before it can begin. You replace drifting with direction. Each part of your ritual becomes an anchor, holding you steady when the storms of life try to pull you off course. And the more deeply you protect that structure, the more unbreakable your momentum becomes. Do not underestimate how sacred this is. When you build a ritual and guard it fiercely, you are telling yourself and the world that your growth is non-negotiable. You are refusing to surrender your first and most powerful hour to chaos. That refusal becomes your shield. It becomes your advantage. In a world where most people wake up reacting, scrolling, and drifting, you are no longer like them. You are awake with intention. You are alive with purpose. You are already winning before the day has even begun. This is the essence of power, not waiting for motivation to appear, but building a structure so strong that discipline becomes effortless. Your ritual is not perfection, it is direction. It is not about doing everything at once. It is about doing the right things consistently. And once it is built, it becomes more than a morning habit. It becomes the blueprint of your future, a silent yet unstoppable force guiding you toward the life you are meant to live. Your ritual is the structure, but the legacy of your mornings is what gives it true meaning. Every action you take at sunrise is not just shaping the hours ahead, it is shaping the years ahead. Mornings compound. The choices you repeat daily are carving a path that either leads to strength or weakness, to clarity or confusion, to fulfillment or regret. What feels like an ordinary moment is, in truth, a vote cast for the person you are becoming. Over time, those votes accumulate until they define your destiny. This is the silent truth of life. Greatness is rarely built in loud, dramatic moments. It is built in the quiet, unseen hours when no one is watching, when you choose to rise with discipline instead of slipping into distraction. The world may never see you hydrate, breathe deeply, reflect, or move your body in the first light of day, but those small, unseen victories will echo into everything the world does see: your work, your relationships, your confidence, your results. Mornings are the invisible engine behind every visible success. Each sunrise hands you an opportunity disguised as simplicity, the chance to choose progress instead of stagnation, the chance to begin aligned with your highest self instead of chained to your weakest impulses. Many people waste this gift. They see morning as something to escape, a hurdle between sleep and obligation. But those who win life treat it as sacred. They understand that the first hour is not about comfort, it is about creation. It is about planting the seeds of energy, focus, and strength that will grow throughout the day, the week, and ultimately the years ahead. Ask yourself, years from now, when you look back, what story will your mornings tell? Will they reveal a pattern of wasted time, of scrolling through noise, of chasing distractions that never mattered? Or will they tell the story of discipline, of quiet determination, of a person who refused to waste the most powerful moments of each day? That story is not written in the future. It is written right now with the choices you make each morning. The legacy of your mornings is not just about personal success. It is about the example you set for others, the ripple effect you create. When you choose to own your mornings, you inspire others to do the same. You prove that discipline is possible, that change is possible, that transformation is possible. And in a world drowning in distraction, your consistency becomes a beacon of strength. Every sunrise is a reminder that you have another chance to decide, another chance to choose who you will be, what you will create, and how you will live. The past cannot be changed, but the morning is always fresh, always new, always waiting for your command. Do not waste it. Do not let it slip into the hands of chaos. Claim it, own it, protect it, because your morning decides everything. Your energy, your focus, your identity, your destiny. Rise with intention. Lead yourself with strength. Build the legacy you want to live, starting with the first moment of every day. The truth is, the battle for your life is often won or lost before most people even open their eyes. The way you rise shapes the way you fight through the day. If you begin with weakness, you carry that weakness into every decision. If you begin with strength, you carry that strength into every challenge. Mornings are not neutral. They tilt the scale either toward your potential or against it. And every single day, you get to choose which way it leans. Most people underestimate the power of that choice. They tell themselves it doesn't matter if they wake up late, if they drift through the first hour half asleep, if they start with noise and distraction. But that first hour is the most valuable territory of the day. It is your mind at its sharpest, your spirit at its most open, your willpower at its highest. To waste it is to throw away the strongest weapon you have. To use it is to build a shield against every obstacle that will come. Think of what happens when you decide to own that sacred time. Instead of being pulled by the world, you anchor yourself in clarity. Instead of reacting, you lead. Instead of being scattered, you become centered. You create momentum so powerful that it carries you forward long after the morning is gone. You find yourself thinking clearer, acting faster, choosing better, simply because you started aligned with your highest self. That is the leverage mornings give you, the ability to multiply the force of everything you do. Discipline in the morning is not just about routine, it is about self-respect. When you rise and take control, you are proving to yourself that your goals matter more than your excuses. You are teaching your mind that you are not controlled by comfort, but by purpose. And every time you repeat that choice, your confidence grows, your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to change and begin seeing yourself as someone who lives with strength. That transformation doesn't happen in theory, it happens in the quiet daily practice of winning the morning. And the beauty of it is this: you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the most elaborate routine or the most flawless discipline. What matters is that you show up, that you rise with intention even when it's hard, that you claim your first hour as yours, no matter what the world demands. Each time you do, you are carving a deeper groove of strength in your mind. Each time you do, you are making it easier to rise again tomorrow. This is how greatness is built, not in giant leaps, but in steady, deliberate steps that compound over time. The morning is your first, most powerful step. It is the foundation. It is the anchor. It is the quiet proof that you are stronger than your excuses, stronger than your distractions, stronger than the world pulling at you. The day belongs to those who win the morning. And when you choose to rise with discipline, with focus, with purpose, you are not just creating a good day, you are creating a good life.